War had just ended. The Treaty of Versailles was signed in 1919, where the winning countries imposed harsh terms on Germany. According to the treaty, the Germans were only allowed a limited army, no air force, tanks and submarines. They were asked to pay a fine of $33 billion to other countries. In such a time, a politician leader who knew how to manipulate the masses took a stand in Germany. He was none other than Adolf Hitler. He wanted unity based on nationality. On one side, people of Germany were facing international humiliation from the treaty, and on the other side, Hitler's popularity increased. In 1933, Hitler declared himself as the dictator of Germany, going to Italy where Mussolini declared his dictatorship, taking advantage of the bad economy and weak government. Now, Europe had two dictators who pretty much had the same ideologies. With them, Japan also wanted to expand its power. Germany, Italy and Japan all believed they were racially superior. In 1935, Hitler violated the Treaty of Versailles by creating a German air force and increasing the army. The Allies did nothing. Hitler first wanted to conquer Europe and finally the entire world. He started with the neighboring Austria, which went smoothly as majority of Austrians did not resist the German invasion. Next, he moved to Czechoslovakia, where around 3 million Germans lived. British Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain comes into the picture. He wanted to avoid war at all costs. In 1938, Munich Agreement was signed, according to which the land was given to Hitler, and Hitler had agreed on no more wars. Not even a year had passed, Hitler casually invaded the rest of Czechoslovakia and broke the treaty. Hitler now wanted Poland. He signed a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union in 1939. Both nations' interests aligned as they both wanted a part of Poland. Now Britain, France and other countries declare war on Germany. This was called the phony war, where there was no real war. Yeah, technically all these countries declare war on Germany, but none of them supported Poland, and Poland was eventually invaded. Hitler used revolutionary warfare strategy called the Blitzkrieg strategy, meaning lightning war in German. The strategy was to strike quickly, exploiting the weakness in the enemy's defenses before the opposition could even think or react. The air force known as Luftwaffe would invade from above. To maintain the Blitzkrieg strategy, the German soldiers were given drugs. Now Hitler next invaded Norway and Denmark using his Blitzkrieg strategy. Due to his failure to protect the neighboring countries, Neville Chamberlain eventually resigned his position as the Prime Minister.
I sought an audience of the King this evening, and tendered to him my resignation, which His Majesty has been pleased to accept,
which was then given to Winston Churchill. Now Hitler declares an all-out war against France, Belgium, Netherlands and Luxembourg. France had built a Maginot Line as a defense against the German borders. Now France was defending both in the north and towards the Maginot Line, but they had left a vast area called the Ardennes Forest undefended, as they thought it was naturally impenetrable. Well, it was not for all the Germans. They passed through the forest and now encircled the Allied army. The Germans then breezed through the entire France. Even after the France invasion, the UK didn't surrender, so Hitler's next target was the UK. There was no land connection between the two nations. The British Royal Navy had more ships than Germany. Hitler then decided to take control of the airspace first. Hitler had around 2,600 Luftwaffe aircrafts, but the UK had around 700. The first war between both didn't go as well for both sides. The cities of Berlin and London were attacked, affecting the civilians. Again in September 1940, Hitler declared an all-out war by sending more than 1,000 fighter jets at once. Even though the UK had less fighter jets, they were successfully able to stop them. This was one of the earliest losses for Hitler. So Hitler shifted his target towards the Soviet Union and believed that defeating them would automatically make the UK surrender. Even though the German and Soviet Union had a non-aggression pact, Stalin knew he couldn't trust Hitler, so the Soviet Union joined the Allied powers. Using the Blitzkrieg strategy, Germans started invading the land. At one point, they were only 300 kilometers away from Moscow. Due to the disagreement inside the German army, the war was delayed till the October of 1941. This helped the Soviet as they had the practice of fighting in the cold and the Germans didn't. On the other side, Japan and Soviet Union signed a non-aggression treaty, which was again helpful as now they sent the army from the eastern border to the west to fight. Out of nowhere in December 1941, Japan attacked the USA Pearl Harbor. This attack led to the United States' entry into the World War II. The US joined the Allied forces to fight against the Axis powers. Hitler now focuses on the south of the Soviet Union to disrupt the supply chain from Iran. However, the German advance eventually stalled at the Battle of Stalingrad in the winter of 1942. The Soviet Union successfully defended Stalingrad. This battle is considered to be the deadliest battle of World War II. Some months later in 1943, the Italian citizens threw out their dictator Mussolini. Mussolini and several members of his government were executed. Gradually, the chances of Allied forces winning the war increased. June 6, 1944, also known as D-Day, the Allied forces, primarily composed of American, British and Canadian troops, launched a massive invasion on the beaches of Normandy, France. They fought the German army on land and were able to free France. This was a dangerous situation for Hitler. He had directed his army to focus on the Soviet Union on the east. They were already losing due to the cold, and now they were being attacked from the western front as well. So as expected, Hitler withdrew his army from the east to now focus on the attack in the west. As soon as Hitler withdrew his army, the Soviet Union made a major counterattack. Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary and Romania were now under the Soviet Union. A last major war called the Battle of Bulge by Hitler was to place the German offensive on the western front in aim to split the Allied forces and influence the overall direction of the war. The battle resulted in heavy casualties on both sides, but it significantly depleted the Germans' remaining military resources. Finally, in May 1945, Berlin was surrounded by the Soviet Union. 2 days before this, Hitler killed himself. Eventually, the Germans formally surrendered. After the World War II, Germany was divided into East and West Germany. The borders of many countries were redrawn. In October 1945, the United Nations was established to ensure that there are no more world wars. Check out this video on World War I if you haven't seen it. Sharpen your brain by following, and thanks for watching.